All right, we're here at CES 2015, and we're talking with Shannon Robb from Thermaltake. Shannon's going to take us through some of their new cases, their LCS system. Shannon, so what do we got here today?
Well, Sean, we have the Core X series, Core X9, Core X2, and Core X1. These are more you want to build from the ground up. These systems can do it. You can strip them down to absolutely nothing and basically build them from there. So these things come with all the necessaries you need to put them together. They're cubicle chassis. They can be stacked, but you can rip it all out and literally just build one of them into a water cooling case like you see here. You could build this thing into just water cooling and feed the one below it if it's stacked together. Or you can build an awesome water cooling rig in the one like you see over there and still have your motherboard and everything below it. You have tons of scalability, tons of modularity, so you can pull the rails out the top. Like for instance, perfect example, on the top of the Core X9, you actually pull the trays out that hold the radiators, and you take these rails, you mount your radiator, then you drop the whole assembly in, rather than the old school way, like I'm sure you've done before, where you have to try to hold the radiator up and try to start screws in so that it doesn't fall down, and you end up with one side hanging down or something silly like that. We took this thing, ripped it apart multiple times during the design process, because the USA side, like me, worked with our Taiwan team, and basically we went back and forth with our engineers and said, okay, need to fix this, need to fix that. We went through every step, every part of the build to make sure that when you build this thing, it wasn't one of these hang-ups where you got to make a compromise. Everything can be removed, replaced, moved, just pretty much put wherever you want to make it yours.
What made you guys decide to go this direction with this? I know there are, have been kind of niche cases that have done this before, but this is definitely much more, I don't want to call it mainstream because it's definitely not a mainstream product, but at the same time, what had you guys move in this direction? I know you've made a lot of changes to the way you built your cases over the last couple of years, and this looks like another sort of shift in that design.
Well, the start of this kind of design was with the Core V71. We wanted to go more so that, once again, like we said, your build, our core. So basically, this, once again, your build, your way. Now we're taking it, so previously, you saw last year, we could pull the drive bays, move them, relocate them, do whatever you need to do to build your system really well. But then we took this and we said, you know what, we want to go a step further. We want to make this thing even more modular so everything can be ripped out, and then you can take it from the ground up and build it into the system, so that instead of trying to make stuff fit into a pre-fit chassis, you don't have all these different components you can change around to make the chassis what you need it to be.
Okay, well, I guess we'll move on and see some of the new water cooling equipment that you actually have inside of these.
Now the Core X2, this is the micro ATX. The original Core X9 was full ATX and eATX, obviously, because you can see this by the size of it. But the Core X2 is micro ATX. This allows up to, a dual card setup, and also you can see large 360 rads, plenty of fitment, tons of rail space to fit pretty much whatever you need. And the really cool feature, once again, if you take a look at this guy, couple thumb screws are in place. You unscrew those, lift the motherboard tray out, build your system outside of the case, then just drop it in, screw it down, and you're ready to power up and go. Same idea with this, just once again, a lot more extreme because it's a stacked system. But you get the idea. You can get a ton of fitment for all different type of devices. Just depends on what your needs are. You can literally build this to match what your needs are, whether it's extreme cooling or just maybe you want a crazy stack system because you love the look of it. You can do pretty much whatever you want within the Core X series. And with that, you can now look at the Core X1 over here. This is our mini ITX. Now, it's a little big for a mini ITX because of the fact that we wanted to build huge capability into it. This one is about the closest you'll see to fully stripped because we put all the liquid cooling in here. So basically these are screwed together. It's like a single chassis. It's like basically really wide tower. And it's got the horizontal motherboard placement, single GPU, but it does have triple slot openings. So if you have one of those really large triple slot graphics cards, we didn't forget about you, because when it comes down to it, most mini ITX cases don't take that. We have the full triple slot available along with more than enough GPU length possibility so that you can fit any card that's on the market presently. Okay, everyone, now first we have the single Core X9. As you can see here, we have dual cylinder reservoirs stacked on top of each other. They're feeding each other. Just creates a really cool effect while being also an effective cooling solution, because it gives you a lot of liquid capacity. So therefore, when you have those thermals running really well, it just keeps the water cooler for a longer period of time. So if you're putting this thing under extended load, and let's say you're pushing it a bit, you're not going to have as much saturation to the loop as you would with just a smaller radiator reservoir like you have here. You have a much larger solution, so it keeps it much more under control. Even though this one's extreme overkill, it's got a few 480s to it, it's a ton of cooling. It's not really something that we're gonna really have a problem with. And then you have your stacked one here. This one actually has dual loops. The whole top is red. It has four 480s feeding it, and 480 radiators. And so therefore this thing the red will actually cool the GPU, while the blue loop down here cools the CPU. So once again, it's ridiculous excess, but it will actually serve a purpose when it comes to high-end machines where you are building multi-card, multi-GPU or multi-CPU setups, where you're building the most extreme overclockable rig possible, or even a high-end render rig. You have plenty of places for airflow or liquid cooling as needed. And what's really cool about the X9 itself is that when you take all the drive bays out, there's actually a drive tray below the CPU cutout that will fit dual SSDs and a high capacity storage 3.5 drive. So you can have rated SSDs and a big storage drive all out of sight. You don't even know they're there. They're hidden right up under the CPU cutout. So that's just one of the ways we've looked at the build, for people who want to build showcase builds and don't want, obviously hard drives can't be dressed up too much. So putting it behind there makes it awesome. Okay, now all this talk about LCS cases, that's really affects, when you look at it, why don't we have LCS itself? Well, we do have liquid cooling. Right here's a kit for those who maybe don't know which parts they should be picking, whether it's fittings, tubing, radiator style, fan style. We put it all together as a kit so it's easy to build off of and easy to upgrade from there. Now let's go take a look at some of the extra gear you can actually use to expand from a kit like this or build your own. Okay, now next up, with the expandability of the liquid cooling, we offer a ton of different radiator options, all the way from your standard, let's say 120, all the way up to 3x180 or 540 radiators. So pretty much anything you can imagine, all the way up to cooling like maybe your Honda, we're going to be able to cover with this thing. And then you've got all different pump styles with cylinder reservoirs. Got a D5 with a dress up. Got a standard D5 cylinder reservoir. We got like an MCP 355. We've even got our P500 Thermaltake pump. So it just depends. What do you need? Do you need to push through a whole ton of blocks with a D5? Do you need just a couple like MCP 355 or a standard CPU loop like our P500? You have the options to choose what kind of build you want to do. Once again, same thing with the radiators. We have, let's say you have a thinner chassis where you don't have as much fitment. You have a really thin guy, so you can fit it in there without having to worry too much about not having the capability of do liquid cooling. We want to be a total solution provider for this kind of thing and make sure you can come to us and you're going to find everything you need to build an awesome liquid cooling system. Same thing, once again, you got your bay reservoir, dual 5 1/4. You saw the graphics cards, they were water cooled in the other machine. You have a feeding in parallel through this large solid block, whether you're 4-way, 3-way, or 2-way. So you don't have to worry about putting fittings from block to block. CPU block, you got one here. We got one that we co-partners with our friends from SwiftTech. Awesome block there. D5 by itself with the dress-up kit in case you want to feed it from one of the standard cylinder reservoirs that don't have a pump on it. Once again, we've got options for days. We even brought something that was kind of funny, just a little fun toy we played with, which was we took a Water 3.0 Extreme pump. We cut the hoses to it, hooked it to one of our huge 180 millimeter radiators just to see what happened. We were very surprised. It actually worked really well. I didn't have too much hope for it, but this is the kind of stuff we do, just to give you guys kind of an insight. We do this kind of fun stuff. We hack it apart and play with it just to see what can happen. What is going to happen? I mean, most likely I thought I was going to break it, but it worked, so I guess I'm wrong, but it is what it is. And then hard tubing demo. This is kind of a direction piece. It's showing you where we're heading, because a lot of custom builders like to have the solid rigid tubing. So we went ahead and we're looking for support for that. We're going to be putting it together so that you guys can build it however you want it. You want rigid tubing, you want the soft tubing standard setups. We've got it with, and speaking of that, you've got all your compression fittings, rotaries, extenders. We've got a full line of fittings as well. And then to round out, obviously your liquid cooling needs fans. So we've got whole tons of fans. And speaking of the low profile stuff like before, we have 10 millimeter thickness fans, so that even in your tighter compartments that are where your motherboard tray is, if you have a very limited amount of space, you have a higher probability of things fitting when you have a little fan like this guy. And we didn't forget about people that maybe don't want to do air cooling. There's still a group of people. There's still a lot of people out there that don't want to do liquid cooling, or maybe they don't like it. They're scared of it. It's something they don't want to possibly risk damage to their system. There's a lot of fear behind liquid cooling, and we understand some people just prefer not to even take the chance. So what we did is we still have our air cooling line available. Our Frios were updated with silent series fans so that you get a much quieter while still getting awesome performance. And we even have a prototype over here. This is a special Frio Extreme Silent Grand. Silent fans, 140 in the middle, dual 120s on the outsides, and you can see the cutouts right here. That allows fitment with the larger 2011 base sockets at X79 and X99, so that you can actually fit your memory and you don't sacrifice actual memory capability while having high performance air cooling. And speaking of the fans and cooling, there's one more I want to show you here real quick. These are our LED ring fans. These are actually our own special design. And you can see that they actually have an LED light tube that goes all the way around. So it creates a unique effect, and it actually goes to the side. So as you have your radiator on top of your case, you could have your light bars going straight across. It just creates a really cool effect. You don't have the stripes that you normally have with four corner LEDs. And not to mention, these fans are static pressure style. The blade style is actually meant for, oops, I made it mad, but that's because it's hooked to our touchscreen fan controller. So it'll actually let you know if one of your fans stops. So this guy is ready. This guy will be ready to go really soon as well. These fans are very early, but once again, it's to show you our direction. We're working on developing these at the moment. There's not even a name for them yet. That's how early they are. But we wanted to share them with you guys so that you can see we have a ton of new ideas when it comes to liquid cooling, air cooling, because these themselves, I mean, as Sean can see if he wasn't behind the camera, these things are on a radiator just to show you worst case scenario, how much noise it's going to make, and you can't really hear them. So basically, these are great even for case fans. If you weren't, let's say you weren't liquid cooling, you could still run them there and be perfectly fine and just run really awesome. Okay, now over here in the TT Sports area, we actually have the Contour game controller. This is an iOS-based controller, so this one will actually support any iOS device from iPad, iPod, iPhone, but the mobile gaming is actually really huge. As you're traveling, you can't travel with most of your gaming systems like you have a huge, heavy gaming laptop, so instead you have all these touch games. Well, we actually optimized the gaming controller to give you console-quality feel to your mobile games. And what's really cool is it comes with a kickstand for your tablet, or let's say you have a mobile phone or an iPod. You can actually flip this up and clamp it on to your mobile phone so that it will hold it in place. Then you can play with your game right in front of you. So it actually makes it just real easy, brings console quality feel to your mobile games without having to have all the different touch experience and all those different, sometimes, eccentricities that come with that. Now let's take a look at some special keyboards and mice we have going here. And now over in the TT Sports area by the keyboards, first thing you'll notice is you've seen the Poseidon Z keyboard. Really solid mechanical keyboard. Obviously, you know we were going to something like RGB, so you can see here, full per key RGB lighting. This is basically preset for some cool functions, just show it off, but it will have a full software to control it when ready and have it out. Figure this one you'll be seeing within the next few months. You'll see it showing up here. But there's even a more, see, okay, this is just for the pretty effect. This is just to create the flash, to create the flare for you. But we have something that actually adds some functionality. Now let's take a look at this. This is a Poseidon Z touch bar. The space bar actually has a touch sensor built in. So let's say you want to program, like for instance, you could program up to 5 macro zones. So as you see, we have our notepad open. All I do is slide across the area for that, select it, and you can see it types out what we put in there. So it literally, you can program macros for your gaming, whatnot, right into the touch bar, or you can use it for sliding and scrolling through websites. You can use it for zooming in and out. You can use it even when you're writing an article, like what Sean, what you do, man. You can take this as you're typing. You can take and just slide to the left. It'll pick the last word you typed. You can delete it and keep going, so you don't have to reach over to your mouse, try to find your cursor, select that word and retype it. You now save the time. You just slide, do it, and go, all because we have a touch bar sensor built right into the space bar. So this is something that I think is really huge when it comes to, there's only so many ways you can make a keyboard, but to add extra function like this means you can have this standard keyboard and you know how to add an enhanced functionality that far superior to just your standard keyboard once you learn how those awesome functions can help you in your everyday productivity life and in gaming. So next up, we have the Theron Plus Smart Mouse and the Poseidon Z Plus Smart Keyboard. They are called smart devices because they have Bluetooth transmitters built into each one and connects to a mobile device, like this iPad we have right here. You can see the software is open, your inputs are selected, you got your Theron Plus, Poseidon Z Plus. So let's say we pick our TS game. And now you open it up. First of all, mouse. You can see as you're moving around, you get your move wheel travel distance, pick it up for liftoff. Let's say you reach into your mouse pad, your liftoff count adds up. Now also, as you're clicking, you're in an RTS game, whatnot, you can see your APM is counting up, your total clicks is counting up, but that's not all. We also have the keyboard. as you're entering, let's say you're playing through your game, we're just going to kind of go through a quick bunch of key presses here so you can see the effect. So now you have your APM going through here. And then you can see one really cool feature is you have your top 10 hotkeys. So then what you can do, you can actually use this data to analyze and go, wait a minute, my hotkey is really far from the rest of them, and it's one of the top ones I use. Maybe I need to remap that somewhere. That's actually what happened to me when I first was testing this product, when we first started talking about building it, is I realized, hey, you know what, when I'm playing certain games, my hotkeys weren't exactly optimized for what I was trying to deliver. So that really helped me a lot. But that's not even the limit as well. We actually created a whole TT Sports Plus community so that this creates a social aspect to it, so that you can challenge each other, you can create events around the whole idea of supporting your gaming style and actually creating a game outside of the game. So you can challenge people, we can create an event so you can win points for other things. All of this connects together so that basically it comes out as a comprehensive cloud-sourced. Basically, you can see how everyone else plays, how they're able to make their gameplay better, and it just enables everyone to be able to hopefully push for a better gaming experience and even maybe a little more social aspect when it comes to gaming, which is always a plus for us.